years from now, people will look at the current time, months after this war started, as a turning point for the worse and by a lot for Israel, unfortunately. It took Israel around 3 hours to destroy nearly all of Egypt's air force in a preemptive strike on June 5th, 1967, when they knew Arab countries were planning to attack Israel. It took Israel 6 days to win that war against three Arab armies that were, much like the Palestinians, intent on annihilating Israel. Fast forward 57 years, but not too fast. Slow down so you can see the progression of how Israel has changed its perspective on fighting wars since then. You'll notice that Israel keeps taking steps to attempt to appease those who say very clearly they want nothing other than to kill all the Jews in the Middle East. And those steps have always resulted in more and more deaths. 6 months ago, October 7th, 2023, when Israel knew, as it always knows, that Hamas is intent on killing Jews whenever and wherever it can, also knew that something big was planned. What Israel did is not act because its policy is to appease its enemies and to appease its critics and so-called allies in the West by just not acting until it seems like there is no choice, and then acting as apologetically as possible. 6 months into this war, it is very difficult, I think, to argue that Israel has not lost, even though militarily this should be a much easier war to win than the Six-Day War. It is wrong to negotiate with terrorists. No negotiations over hostages, over a ceasefire. None of that should happen at all. You do not negotiate with Hamas, you eliminate Hamas. But Israel is negotiating, and you can see the difference between the negotiations a few months ago when there was a temporary ceasefire and some terrorists were released and some of the hostages were released by Hamas, to the negotiations today where Hamas is demanding a lot more, Israel is offering a lot more. The West is putting pressure on Israel to capitulate to Hamas in the negotiations, including Biden. Early in this war, I've never heard such pro-Israel rhetoric from a US president. Biden was pro-Israel when Israel was attacked and didn't respond. Once Israel responded and tried to defend itself and try to prevent Hamas from doing what they promised, which is to repeat October 7th again and again until Israel is annihilated. Once Israel did a little bit, and again, it's not doing nearly enough to actually prevent that, suddenly Biden is siding with Hamas. There's nothing clearer in the world in current events and politics, nothing easier to judge. Not because Israel is perfect, it's not. It's because the Palestinians are pure evil. If you want to divide the two sides in the easiest way, you'd say one is on the side of death and the other is on the side of life. But Israel is not enough on the side of life when it comes to its own people. Think of what that means. It means we need more soldiers to die so that we can show to the world, look, we're doing everything to avoid civilian casualties on the enemy's side, even at the cost of our citizens. That's a higher price than the lives of these soldiers. These policies prove that in the deaths of the soldiers, in the fact that rockets are still being fired. Attempts at terrorist attacks are daily from the West Bank, and Israel is not winning the war.